So Chris Chan did another live stream this week, and in this one I feel like he was a little bit more open to answer questions he was uncomfortable about in the first go around, but not by much. Chris seems very eager to just hurry this process along, as it seems that whoever his current handlers are putting him in front of this camera and asking him to do this to collect super chat money, which is coming in droves, might I add. People are very gung-ho to just give Chris a couple bucks here and there to answer one of their questions, which, spoiler alert, he does not do. I mean, there had to be at least like 200-300 questions that popped up on screen. Chris maybe answered 6. It was a complete scam from Chris, and people were upset about it in the chat. But to be fair, I don't know why these people were upset. If you're gonna be willing to give Chris money to get him to answer a question, you obviously care enough about his opinion on it, so that would likely mean that you care enough about Chris to know about the guy. Which would also mean if you know enough about Chris, you would know not to give him money, and that he's probably too lazy to even look up, read your question, comprehend it, and then answer it, because he's, for the most part, not even capable of doing most of that. Nonetheless, it was a pretty funny stream, and I'm going to highlight some of the best parts of it here for all of us to enjoy, so I hope you guys do enjoy it.
Hey everybody, yay and merrily. Right, so tonight is a simple Q&A live stream. I'll be responding to mainly the paid questions that'll pop up. Anyway, let's see, today is the 10th of November. Anyway, let's get my thoughts together and everything. As we vibe out with positive, good vibes and everything, it's so good. Oh, well thank you very much for the amazing day. Anyway. Wait, what? Mic muted? Yeah, let me check the audio then. Testing 1, 2, 3. Nope, it's not muted. Yes, I like Fluttershy. She's a lovely, nice, kind pony. She's a lovely, nice, and kind Pegasus.
Right from the jump, Chris seems incredibly overwhelmed by all the questions coming in. He can't keep up, and if ones are usually more than 1 or 2 sentences, he just brushes them off and sits there kind of dumbfoundedly making noises, as you saw there. And of course, the chat is all filled with trolls and people telling him that the mic is muted, and Chris genuinely takes this to heart, checks it out, and then you can tell he's a little upset when he realizes that it's not muted, but these people didn't. They did not stop for 1 second. They were in that chat letting Chris know how muted his mic was almost the entirety of the stream.
Anyway, let me think. I'm thinking about all those things I could talk about. But yeah, among all the details of which I have thought about and further meditate upon during my time in jail, I've also expanded on the Autobot team of Quickville, which y'all will remember good old Autobot Sanchu. And that's Selena and Prowler, of course, Bumbalumba and Almarats. They were the main 5. But we got 4 more, because we had a combiner team as well. And 3 of them had human partners, aside from Sanchu and Chris there. So yeah, that's a whole mess of other details going on. Anyway.
I mean, you're goddamn right, it's a whole mess of words there, but then again, you could have just stopped after you said Bumbalumba. Like, who is Bumbalumba? Now how is that not the star of the show here? But then again, I may have just answered my own question. He can't be the star of the show, because Bumbalumba just sounds like a Patrick Star vibe, you know? Like Bumba's the Patrick to Sonichu's SpongeBob, but my god, I've never heard of this character before, but now I might start having to read Sonichu to just find out the story of old Bumba.
Anyway, we think. Oh, right, my day. Oh. Merry Christmas! Feliz Navidad! Yay! So, I just heard we had to go singing and dancing for Christmas. Wait, oh, we do? Come on, let's go singing and dancing for Christmas. Jesus is coming back. Jesus is coming back. I am right here. Da 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 da. Yay! Okay.
You gotta love how Chris starts singing this Christmas jingle about how Jesus is coming back, Jesus is coming back, and I think halfway through that it kind of dawned on him what he was saying, so he had to break into I am right here. Because, Jesus may already be coming back, but it's kind of like the merge. Even though it's like supposed to happen in the future, it's technically already happening. So here's Jesus, he's on screen right now. Well, technically he's not on screen right now. Surfshack Tito is on screen right now, but Jesus will be back on screen in a little bit here. Nonetheless, I wonder if, as the Christmas season approaches, if Chris is just going to go in, take numerous Christmas classics, and turn them into his own, like, these own songs worshiping him. I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but knowing Chris, it's not that far out of the realm of possibility.
That was the first essentially. That was the front. Oh, yes. It was good to meet you that day, too.
So I didn't notice it when I was watching the stream initially, but what this person says is that it was great meeting Chris the other day at Branchland, which is, Chris's original house where Barbara currently lives. And we know that Chris was back there a few months back to just grab some of his Sonichu stuff, and other than that, we thought that was it, and then he's back at whatever apartment he's staying at now with this Cabbage Patch person, this Flutter, or as he calls her. And I've said it before, but if this Flutter person is who Chris genuinely claims she is, and she's just like some 30-year-old woman who is romantically invested in Chris, well then that's good, that's good, we get down to the hanky-panky, that's fine, but it's better than going home and doing it to Barbara, and what this person says makes you think that maybe Chris is back there more often than you think, and I'm not gonna go throw any allegations out there, because maybe this person's talking about that specific day all those months ago. We don't have any more context than this, but if Chris really is making the drive all the way back up to Ruckersville to go visit Barb more at Branchland, I don't know, man, that's something that's gotta be checked out, because you'd think that at this point, the amount of trash he talks about Barbara, he called her a fucking Snorlax a few weeks ago, like, he's not clearly, like, that interested in Barb anymore, but he will defend her, as you'll see later in the video, but I think it's just for, like, little things that only he would care about. Nonetheless, if Chris really is going back up there, it's something that needs to be watched, because you cannot trust this dude. He's made it known before that he saw no fault in what he did, and in most of these videos, he doesn't even take accountability and says it didn't even happen now. So, he's just a dangerous person when it comes to being around his mom in any form or fashion, and just, didn't notice that the first time, but after seeing it, I'm like, oh god, hopefully it's not happening again.
The team that wins the Super Bowl shall be the team that has earned it. It has been predetermined by divine fate and goodness.
Although Chris is all-knowing, he declines to give an answer and just kind of beats around the bush as to who is going to win the Super Bowl next year. So if you were looking to get some good betting picks from Chris, it's not happening. This god is not a god who wants to see money in your pockets, that's for sure.
I will answer that question once, and I will not answer it again upon repeat. But essentially, I'll get back to that question. It's a duly noted question, but anyway. It was essentially on the one hand, in preparation of getting myself to avoid having anything to do with where I was going to be in the first place, because had I gone to Everfree Northwest, I would have been really interpreted by Isabella, and that would land me in jail over there in Washington State, or something that. Okay, here we go. That was good talk. Anyway, so let's get back to you on that. All right. So just essentially, there's that detail, and of course, Null would have stabbed me in the back one way or another, as he did with refunding everybody when he did not have to. We had the pictures and everything. Yeah, it was just better that I just let fate, divine planning happening, so I just pretty much went with a distant alternate timeline and accessing the memories of that self-count part of mine, and just, going to that. And I did what I did, get myself, so I'll get back to that question in a moment. Essentially, just accepting the fate and let myself be in my jail for a couple of times to get through all that. Anyway.
So Chris finally answers a question that people actually want to know, and that is why he bragged about sleeping with Barbara if he's going to go back now and say that he never did it. And Chris basically gives another non-answer, but he does say that he was just basically speeding up the process, because had he gone to Everfree Northwest, which is the convention that Bella was going to go to with him, with that other girl, the Sutress, the 19-year-old girl who genuinely wanted to sleep with Chris, well, Chris would have been arrested for those events. Now, I do think that what Chris is talking about here is the fact that Bella was going to record him and that girl doing it, and she was going to then say that Chris maybe, like, forced himself. I don't know, man. It obviously wasn't going to be a thing with underage, because the girl, again, was 19, so Chris legally wouldn't have been doing anything wrong. But, I mean, him saying this, that he tried to get out of this, so he said that he slept with Barb, honestly, like, let's be honest here, it sounds like a Chris thing to do. Not knowing how to get out of one situation, so he makes up so much of an entirely worse situation. I'm not going to go ahead and say that he didn't sleep with Barb, because I still really do believe that he did. Although when he puts it like that, for even someone like Chris, I'm like, that could make sense, but still, I don't think it's enough to straight up call him innocent. Not no way, no how. Then why'd they keep him in jail for 2 years, you know? Why has he, on many numerous occasions, tried to justify the action by saying he did it, but it was all good, and it was to heal Barbara? You know, I think he's just now trying to find the perfect retcon, and I think he's found it by not knowing that he's found it, but nonetheless, he's lying. Like, he's lying again. Everyone knows what's happened here, and if it didn't happen, he would be back living with Barb right now. But again, he's basically just trying to say that him going to jail was a foretold event that has to happen in order for the merge to happen. So apparently, I guess in Chris's mind, he had to go into like a 2-year monk-like, you know, up in the mountains, nothing but praying, and that's basically what he did. And he just tries to make everything in his life sound so much more grand when we all know what like actually happened there and why he was in jail. It's just so gross to see him trying to spin it this way, but these lolcows always do this with disgusting acts they do. I mean, look at White Bowser, for Christ's sake. And then, not to mention, he gets mad at Null for giving the money back to people that they donated to Chris for him to go to that convention. Chris was upset about this from the jump, because Null cut ties with Chris and sent all the money back to people who genuinely shouldn't have given it to Chris in the first place. But I've said it before, it's your money, you do what you want with it. I don't know why you'd want to send a man-child to a fucking anime convention. I mean, that's just not like something, I don't wake up in the morning and go, you know what, let me do a good deed. If you're gonna do that, just donate it to charity. Stop doing this shit. Nonetheless, Chris is very upset about that, as you can see. He still thinks Null is Judas for this, because, I mean, in the Bible, Judas is the one who sold out Jesus, and by giving all that money away, you know, Chris's hard-earned money, Josh basically sold him out there. And it's funny because it's seemingly something that even these few years later still nips at Chris's craw, and he's never gonna let that one go.
No, I am not disclosing where I am, period. And that is none of your business. Well, you know, it was pretty good, I was not in prison, I was in jail. There's a difference. Big difference. No prison, just jail. Central Virginia Regional Jail, Orange County. I did not make... It happened. Well, if you want to say I made it up, that's fine, but that's not the case. But hey, would you rather want to end up being in jail in another state? Because you're going to end up in jail anyway, one way or another. Hey, at least I took it by the horns. I suffer for all y'all's sins in that part and aspect. Now, everything happened. There will be no comments in regards to Flutter, and when she and I started talking and everything. That's none of your business.
When someone calls out Chris on how much of a stupid lie that was, as it got him put away in jail for 2 years, Chris responds with, well, it isn't entirely made up. So he basically confirms again that he did do what he said, but I guess this time not to the extent of it. I mean, Chris went into pretty graphic detail, so let's all hope that some of the stuff he talked about isn't true. But I mean, again, I think he doesn't want to be wrong in any situation, so he's like, well, you know, that's for your own interpretation. So he just wants these people to to believe he's right, and he goes more into it again, saying that he'd rather have gone to jail in Virginia than in another state like Washington. And while that is true, it's just more retcons Chris is trying to throw at people to get them to believe that he didn't do what he said. And then at the very end there, he brings up Flutter for one of the first times, but he won't disclose any information. He does say, though, he won't disclose how long they've been talking. And usually with most people, you could assume, oh, then they're interested in each other. Maybe they're a couple, but you never know with Chris, because last week when he talked about his relationship, he still talked about simply being married to Magichan and Sylvana, and maybe that's not going to change, but he's going to say he's married to them in one dimension and Flutter in this one if they become a thing. But just knowing Chris, him saying talking could mean just about anything. He used to say that him and his gal pals, who were never his girlfriends to begin with, broke up after they stopped being friends. So yeah, just I can't take him on any words on he says, so we're still back at square one with who Flutter is, and I imagine we won't know about this anytime soon, but every time I say that, we seem to find out these things shortly after. So who knows, maybe next time Chris is on a Q&A, Flutter's going to accidentally walk on stream, just be like, Chris, and here's like another 200 Sonichu medallions, I want them done by 8 o'clock, or else you're not eating tonight, and then we know what's really going on, but until then, we're just left to wonder.
I do not pretend I am. I have talked about this before, and you should know this very well and seriously. Now, I can only find it. Oh, them? No. Oh, excuse me a second. No, Megan was not totally a toxic hater, but she was not exactly right in everything she did, and just that's a whole different kettle of fish with those that have blocked me on social media, because here's a detail which I feel like should be explained. Yeah, of course I know Mighty and Ray, they're cool guys, but anyway. Yeah, about those that blocked me on the internet, just essentially Everybody is blessed, and everybody has died of the Palestine shall be re-guided and resituated as they are, and all that is good will be between the 1218 and C197 halves. Anyway, dope. Question mark. Dope. Thanks a lot for distracting me. There's just whichever team wins is gonna win, all right? Because after all, it's a football game.
Chris is so fed up with people asking him about the fucking Super Bowl. I mean, honestly, these people saying they want the Packers or the Bears to win, it's probably going to be either the Chiefs or Eagles again. It's probably going to be a repeat of last year. Who knows? But I'll tell you who definitely doesn't know, Chris, because Chris has just had it up to here. No more football questions. He is trying to answer, though, a question related to Megan Schroeder and all the people who blocked him online, and too many more questions come in, and he keeps trying to pay attention to them, that he just completely forgets about that first one that he was trying to figure out for like a whole minute there. He's avoiding the ones who ask about the Barbussy because they are pretty common here. So he's avoiding them ones like the plague, but that happens pretty often here in this live stream. And 9 times out of 10, if I cut something, it's because Chris is just sitting there sighing, making noises, waiting to remember what he was talking about beforehand.
I don't know what OnlyFans is, but it's a possibility. That's to be determined later on.
I know a lot of y'all might be laughing at that one and thinking how ridiculous it is, but just understand that once he learns about it, he may think that's a genuine, business possibility for him right there. I mean, dear God, Chris had no problem posting pictures of the unclit online, and also, it wouldn't be the first time he dipped his feet into this territory. If you know anything about Carlos Chantour, then you're going to be like, oh shit, you might be right. And I think I may be right, because I wouldn't be surprised if Chris went full steam ahead into this venture, but I want to stop talking about it immediately, because let's just roll to the next thing.
I really got the priority set, and we're not we're keeping our distance away from the fakers and that. If I'm a brain can remember the previous questions, how could I answer? I wish I could have access to all the history of those questions. Oh, 9 non-binary. Ah, you mean those that don't identify as either gender? Yeah, there's like a few, but obviously stick with their birth gender and whatnot. The majority of them do. Well, George Floyd, he ended up on the C-197 half to his counterpart's body. So that was just the thing. Of course, Jason David Frank, I really liked him as, Green Ranger. He ended up in his self-counterpart, so he's literally the President Power Ranger iteration that Tommy ended up being.
And of course Chris gets asked about George Floyd, and of course Chris answers it by saying that George is fine in Quickville as his OC counterpart. Now, I don't know what George's OC was, but whatever it was, he's living it up in Quickville right now. He then gets asked about Jason David Frank, or I'm sorry, he doesn't get asked about it, he just brings him up. I don't know why he compares those two people together, but there's a certain goblin in Akron right now that's probably really happy to know what Jason's doing up there in the pearly gates of Quickville.
Yeah, Cole is not a toxic hater. He just had some really bad rough times with his family. It just doesn't. It's premature, alright? G5 is not meant to be existent yet. And I'm not going to see it at all until after Generation 4, Friendship is Magic, Season 14, Episode 26 is made and aired and everything. With all the other episodes beforehand. And that just felt like a whole lot of words. I will not present any further details about what we have in the process, which will only go towards talking about directly with Nintendo themselves. That's a whole different thing. Anyway, I'm not going to give anybody spoilers and the risk of any parodies or anything.
In the beginning there, Chris talks about Cole Smithy and how he's not a toxic hater, he simply had a bunch of bad times with his parents. And Chris rarely has ever talked about how Barbara was a bad parent to Cole, so to see him kind of start to realize that maybe things were different for Cole than they were for him, well, it's just kind of weird to see. Then Chris goes on to, of course, rant about the pony stuff again. He can't handle the fact that there's a new season of this show, as he wants it to revert to the old format, and it's just one of those many things that Chris can't ever, he'll always hold on to the first, time he saw it and wants it to be that forever. Now, when it comes to Pokemon, though, he's apparently talking about a DLC that's going to come out that I guess it retcons the current Pokedex, gets the Dunsparce right the fuck out of there, adds the Sonichus all in their rightful spots, but he can't talk about that because he doesn't want to spoil it for y'all. But again, he thinks he's probably going to be in talks with Nintendo, so it's good to see that even all these years later, Chris is still as delusional when it comes to his thought process as to him talking with these big corporations selling off Sonichu. He still, to this day, thinks that he can make a living off this copyright disaster of a character, and I think he'll think that till the day he dies. It's one thing that Bob really fucked up on, and that's telling Chris, probably out of annoyance because Chris kept asking about it, no, you're fine, just do it, so yeah, there's that.
Yes, I have played Sonic Frontiers. Some of it, but not all of it. I have not made it to the first island yet. I've been so busy with a whole bunch of other details and things and everything. I haven't been able to play that game that much.
So Chris goes off about not being able to play Sonic Frontiers, and it's probably because he's just tired of being asked by people when he really wants to play this game and hasn't had time to. But I have a theory, and that's that Chris is actually upset by this because he's telling the truth right there. He doesn't have time to do it. While Chris probably still plays tons of video games all day long, the fact that he can't sit there and sink his entire day into doing it because whoever's kind of helping him sell all this stuff is telling him he needs to work on this all day, it's probably really getting to Chris. You know what type of person he is, I know what type of person he is, and this isn't gonna keep up for long. He probably thinks this is just like a 1-2 month thing where he's got to work pretty hard, sell all his stuff off, and then things go back to normal. He is not ready for the fact that he's going to have to give up a part of his day for the rest of his life if he wants to make money. And I don't know, that to me is just, that was me starting to see, oh, it might be getting to him already, just maybe a couple weeks into the fact, but who knows? He's probably just on edge because he's tired of answering questions already.
983. And I'm not acknowledging that comment just now. Trying to find those. You know, speaking of cosplays, I'm just going to mention this right now. So I have heard that some individuals were cosplaying as Barbara, which I really, really, really do not like that at all. Period. Just what am I going that way? There it is. Just essentially because the way you are all portraying her in your cosplay, in the way of just essentially being a bad being an old lady when y'all should know better. She was more than that. She's had quite the life and history, working at First North American National Bank and everything. I mean, shoot, y'all don't know too much history about Barbara. Just everything she lived at, and just run through. I mean, if y'all gonna cosplay as Barbara, I say dress up as her when she was a lot nicer and more successful. I mean, there's a nice, lovely old picture of her. All right. If you want to cosplay as Barbara, try to look like that. It's a good outfit. Anyway, just y'all know about that.
And then Chris talks about how he's upset that people are cosplaying as Barbara, and not a flattering version of Barbara either. Not that old, decrepit Barbara. They should be cosplaying her when she was, like, at her regular job and doing some magic act with her husband, like Chris says. I mean, also, he shows a picture of her and says, why aren't you doing this Barbara? Yeah, I guess in his eyes, that's a more attractive, younger Barbara. I mean, technically, it is a younger and more attractive Barbara, but I mean, she's not really attractive. In Chris's eyes, she definitely is, which is weird to say despite knowing it's true. But it's so funny that he's going to bat for her here, and just a few weeks ago he called her a fucking Snorlax. Like, why aren't you pulling for people to cosplay that? Snorlax Barb would be a pretty lit cosplay. I'd definitely crack up at that one if I saw it out in public. A lot of people went out on Halloween apparently dressed up as Chris Chan. Some did the Chris Barb cosplay, which, I mean, I get it. Like, I get it. It's like a funny thing, but it's really weird. I highly doubt I could have convinced Miss Smokey to do that one with me, nor would I have wanted to. And yeah, I mean, Chris has the simplest problems in the world, people cosplaying as his mom and everything, but it's very important to him that this stuff stops. Despite doing the most disrespectful thing to your mom I could possibly think of, other than maybe killing your dad, Chris has done some pretty nasty shit to Barb, and it's just weird. It's just weird to see him care about this and not other things, but it's Chris at the end of the day. He's got a very warped perspective on the world. This video kind of helped me understand what Chris's mental state is like, and that is that it hasn't changed a bit since he went into jail. I mean, it's not surprising to see. He's still very much entrenched in this idea that the merge is happening, that he did nothing wrong with Barb, that, that the pony stuff needs to revert to its former format. He really is serious about that one. That's his new age Sonic Blue Arms situation. It's not what people expected. I heard from so many of y'all the whole time Chris was in jail that when he gets out, the homeless saga begins. And I don't think anybody ever predicted that he'd be living in some random place with some random woman making a decent living offline, something that people have told him to do for years, but he was never capable of doing. And just look at the shoes he's in now. Chris is probably financially in a better state than he's ever been in his life. And does that bring happiness? Doesn't seem like it, because these like 1 hour streams he does once a week seems like such a fucking chore for Chris. He gets in front of this camera and within an hour he's like, ugh, like I want to get out of here. Anyway, let me give you a prayer and then I'm heading out. That's exactly what happens. And I don't know, man. I don't know, but it's going to keep happening because people are going to keep throwing money at him. But I think after a few months, he's going to get fed up with just doing anything. I think these people at the Prater have him under their thumb pretty hard. But eventually, Chris is just going to become so pouty and so annoyed by having to do anything for his money that it might be an issue. So that's my prediction next. Who knows, though? What do you guys think is going to happen? Let me know down in the comments. You think him and Flutter are going to run away somewhere? It's going to be happily ever after? Do you still think she's a troll? Because a lot of people do. I think after seeing this and seeing how much money Chris is making, seeing that some random person has a whole streaming setup just ready for Chris, and like it's getting constant improvements, things that Chris absolutely has no idea how to do himself, it just proves that so many people are pulling the strings here, and it won't be too long before we find out, because Chris obviously doesn't know how to keep his mouth shut. In this video he did, actually, because he did at one point say that he wasn't going to disclose where he's at right now, which I think is a much further step for Chris than any of us have ever expected. I 100% fully expected him to just blurt out where he was at right there, but the fact that he didn't, maybe Chris is learning. But we'll have to see with how these more streams come out and what Chris says. But it's just getting wackier and wackier. So I hope you guys enjoy it, and I hope you stay tuned as more of this stuff happens, because I got a lot of good videos on the way for y'all. And again, I want to thank all you guys for sticking around. You guys have always supported me, and I can't thank you enough for that. I hope you find this stuff funny. I know a lot of you say you get a lot of enjoyment for this. You listen to these videos during work and everything, and to that I say, I love hearing it. It's genuinely my favorite thing about making these videos, is that hearing the people are able to put their headphones on, listen to this stuff while they're going about their day or doing work or doing like college stuff. It always makes me go, man, like I just love knowing that I can give y'all something that helps your day go by faster. A lot of people always say, man, why do you make these videos? It's like you're obsessing over some random dude on the internet. And to that I say, almost every single video is about a certain topic on the internet. People, a game, a random thing. So by that logic, is Ninja, is this dude just like, is he obsessed with Fortnite? Yeah, technically, because it's what he makes content on. And I just happen to make content on people like Christian. And is there something wrong with that at the end of the day? I don't know. I'm not a moral compass, and neither are you guys. So I hope you enjoy the videos, and if you get a laugh out of them, that's all that matters to me. So until the next time, I'll see you guys later, and everyone have a great rest of your day, great rest of your week, just great rest of the Christmas season's upon us, my friends. How can you not be happy? And hope you guys just have a great time going forward. I'll see you on the next one. Take care and be safe.